Hello, good evening and welcome to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat today is the former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. W.A. Vijayawardena. Very good evening to you, Doctor.
Very good evening, Faraz.
And many congratulations on the launch of your book, Central Banking, Challenges and Prospects.
Thank you very much.
My only regret, though, is that the events of this last week at the revelations at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into the issuance of bonds by the Central Bank happened after you published your book. But that doesn't stop us from discussing it today. Very important. I described it yesterday or a couple of days ago as the champagne moment for whistleblowers, for jolly good central bankers, and for all those interested in having a just society, because it was important to be accountable and responsible, isn't it?
Yeah, but of course, Faraz, it's still too early for us to celebrate, because we have actually now, so far we have only gathered evidence.
Indeed.
But we have to celebrate only after we have taken all those people who have been named in the bond commission as the people who have masterminded the bond scam. It actually is not a one bond scam, Farah. It's a series of bond scams starting from the 27th of February 2015 and ending up to about the first week of April. And all these people, if the long arm of the law reaches them and captures them and put them behind bars, then only you can have a champagne event.
I would like to throw the keys away and then celebrate.
Okay, that's also a good option, because the people should be there permanently behind bars.
Indeed. Some of the timelines here are, but we've also had sort of, they're not quick wins, but we've had some wins. Like when His Excellency the President refused to reappoint Mr. Mahendran or give him his own contract because he was serving the balance of Mr. Cabral's term, and that was a victory of sorts, and there was great sort of expectation, relief from people in the industry and so on. And now, when we now hear this evidence, it is almost shocking that you know, in Sinhalese they say "Anu nameng beruna." You know, so it appears that yes, the country has escaped by the skin of its teeth.
Not yet, Farah, because the damage which the series of bond scams that had done to Sri Lanka can never be recovered. It can never be repaired, because it's so much. Because we have lost our credibility, we have lost our reputation. We are lost as a nation which is bent on maintaining law and order, rule of law, and the independence of judiciary and so forth. So as a result, in my view, Faraz, we have lost so many things which cannot be recovered maybe within the next even 1 to 3 year period, because it takes it's a very slow recovery for Sri Lanka from the loss of reputation. Very slow recovery. Very slow recovery. Yeah.
But it's absolutely sad, and it's saddening that it has happened coming from a government that was openly committed to good governance, a return to an equitable lifestyle for everybody, and a just society. It's almost as
exactly. I mean, the government came to power promising that they would deliver good governance to Sri Lankans. So what we expect from such a government is that on the side of the government also there must be good governance. Not only good governance across the wider society in Sri Lanka, but within the administration of the government there has to be good governance, which means for whatever the action the government has taken, whether it is good or bad, the people who have taken that action should take responsibility and they are accountable, and if there is something damaging has been done, those people should be dealt with severely in terms of the laws of the country. Now this has not happened in this case right from the very beginning if you examine the timeline of the bond scam, because I can recall very well on the 27th of February 2015 when the scandalous bond auction took place in the central bank, and within hours all of us got the news where the people had alleged that instead of when the central bank had issued to the market only 1 billion, it had gone on to accept up to 10 billion, and out of that 10 billion, 50% had been issued to one particular primary dealer, according to the news related to the governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Now, this is a situation where the governor of the central bank will have to be very careful. At the same time, the government which has appointed that governor of the central bank also be very careful, because it's a scandal which is defaming the good name of the central bank as well as the good name of the government. But nothing happened.
But nothing happens.
Nothing happened.
And you know, there is some school of thought to say that even now, even though we've made some progress in the sense that the President has appointed this special commission of inquiry, even though we've made several inroads into addressing the issue, although it is late, and you know, it's better late than never sort of thing. But on the one side, we've had this bond and the effect of the bond entrenched into the system. It's almost so solid that it's not possible to budge it. And the perpetrators of this affair for a while seem to have got away with it, and even now it's not sure whether they haven't got away with it. But even now we still have some people who are within the system who are remaining in the system. And as a member of the public, I of course find that absolutely difficult to understand. You know, we have the current chairman of the bond committee, a relatively junior person in the form of Saman Kumara, has been interdicted. Perpetual treasuries has been suspended for 6 months, the operations. But then we find that the Mr. Samarasiri, who's the deputy governor and who's the chairman of this bond committee, is still there. There's a school of thought to say that just because you make an error of judgment doesn't mean that you'll be interdicted. But my personal view, this is not the view of the network or anything, it's my personal view. I believe that if it is a series of errors of judgment, then it requires investigating to see whether there was any fraud or any wrongdoing. And how can you have an investigation when that person is in situ? The least they can do is to move him out, at least for the period.
Exactly, Farhad, because I had been working in the central bank for 36 years. During that period, I have encountered many occasions where similar things had happened in the central bank, but the governors who were holding that prestigious position in the central bank, they took prompt action immediately.
But you need to, don't you? Because
you have to.
It is so urgent.
Yeah, I mean, even the internal disciplinary regulations of the central bank require you to move the particular officer out of his position and then start the inquiry. So here is a situation in which even people like us who had worked in the central bank, we cannot understand how these things are happening inside the central bank. Because the most important thing that would have been is that the particular officer would have been taken out of that place and given him a fair chance of explaining himself, defending himself. But instead of what has happened is, as you say, the people had been continuing to hold those positions until very recently, and as a result, whatever the attempts made by the government or the independent bodies like COP, parliamentary COP, had been completely foiled by the people who are inside the central bank. So this is a very bad signal. That's what I said. The damage done to central bank's reputation as a result of the bond scam is irrecoverable right now.
That makes me very sad. It makes me very sad because as investigative journalists who's after all these things, we don't only want to uncover, but we want to follow it through, and we want to see justice. We do all believe in this notion that justice must be seen to be done.
Yeah.
And so it's all very sad. But and as I say, it makes it sadder because we appear to have been collectively, the whole country, have been let down by this so-called promise of good governance.
Exactly. I mean, I agree with you, because the government could have scored a lot on account of the good governance behavior had it taken action promptly against the perpetrators of this particular issue. But of course, we have to thank President for appointing the Presidential Commission to inquire into the bond scams during 2015 to 2017, and that particular appointment had enabled society to learn exactly what had happened, because the people who had given evidence on oath had been coming out with the truth now. Before that, far as it was only a suspicion.
Indeed.
Now the suspicion has now been confirmed by concrete evidence. So therefore, it's a matter for society to take it forward and, as you suggest, to follow it up.
Indeed. Let's take a short break. Don't go away. Do stay tuned. After all, this is the Hot Seat. And welcome back to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat today is Dr. W.A. Wijewardena, no stranger to the network, the former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, and the author of Central Banking, Challenges and Prospects. Dr. Wijewardena, I keep going on about this, and I want to get my head around it. When a primary dealer has departed from procedure or abused the system or whatever, some form of wrongdoing, what steps are available under the Monetary Law Act and the powers vested in the central bank to address that? What can you do?
It's not under the Monetary Law Act for us, it is under the Registered Securities Ordinance.
Right.
And also the regulations issued by the central bank in terms of that ordinance.
Right.
If any primary dealer had deviated from the correct practice as pronounced by the central bank regulations, the immediate action to be taken by the central bank is that to conduct an inquiry and give them a fair hearing, give them a chance to defend themselves. But after the inquiry, if the central bank has found that there had been a wrongdoing, there are two courses of action. If it is a minor one, the central bank would allow the particular primary dealer to correct himself within a given time frame. And if it doesn't do that within the time frame, then of course severe action can be taken. But if it is a major action, there is one particular provision available: you cancel the license. And in the case of the present bond scam, neither one was followed by the central bank until the new governor of the central bank was placed in the governor's post.
But Dr. Wijewardena, you are almost suggesting that there is nothing that we can do in terms of recovery.
No, recovery cannot be done by the central bank, and it has to be done by law enforcement agencies, because central bank's powers are limited for us.
But can it impose a fine?
No, it can impose fines, but of course those fines, and of course they can impose fines, they can impose various restrictions on businesses, various things. But that all depends on the nature of the deviation done by the particular primary dealer.
But we are told,
if it is a serious one, it should necessarily result in cancelling the license. But if it's a minor one, you can go ahead with fining, imposing a fine, you can go ahead with imposing restrictions and so forth.
That's it. We'll take a short commercial break, and on the other side of this break, we'll pose the final question to Dr. W.A. Wijewardena. And welcome back to the Hot Seat, where we have Dr. W.A. Wijewardena with us. I was going to say to you the last and final question. I hear what you say about the recovery and so on, and then we talk about the fines, and you say that their license could be cancelled. But Dr. Wijewardena, we understand from our sources that the monies made by this particular, that there have been several dealers involved in this, but the one major one who's at the epicenter of this storm of Bondgate, that their profits that have accrued, that the finances are still in place and that the central bank have not signed it off.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, the central bank may not approve of the accounts that have been submitted by the particular primary dealer. But to recover the money which they may have amassed through fraudulent means, if it is proved in a court of law, it's up to the country's legal system to recover that money for us. It's not to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Central Bank should simply initiate legal action through the law enforcement agencies, because the procedure within the central bank is that if the central bank finds that the particular primary dealer has done something wrong, leading to the major abuse of his power, then the central bank's monetary board will have to report it to the criminal investigations department, which also has to conduct an inquiry, and then it's the Attorney General's department to take the matter forward. And in this case, for us, what I feel is that once the report of the sitting bond commission is out, and if the bond commission has found various inappropriate transactions done by these people, it's up to the Attorney General's department to take further action.
So what you're saying is that the central bank can, it has limited options.
It has limited options, because central bank is simply the financial controller, but not the criminal control of the country. That has to be done for good reason, which should be done by the AG department, and I am sure that AG department will take action, because that is why I said we have to thank President Maithripala Sirisena for appointing this particular commission. Because of this commission, whatever the things that we had been talking about from year 2015 were viewed at that time as mere hearsay and suspicions.
Indeed.
But now, of course, the evidence after evidence has corroborated the charges that we had made as civil society activists for us. So actually the more evidence is now coming out, and we don't know what would come out today or what would come out tomorrow. So we have to wait until the report is finalized and submitted, and if the commission has found that there are some people who can be taken before courts of law because of the fraudulent activities they have committed, then the AG department surely will take action against them.
Dr. Wijewardena, last and final question, I believe. We have information that a partial database of a bank has been breached. 33,000 lines of information. But when somebody showed this to me, it took less than a few seconds to open the spreadsheet.
My God.
Therefore, my point to you is, do you think there were more than 36,000 bonds issued in 2 years?
Yes, there can be.
There can be.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to say is it won't take weeks and weeks and weeks for a computer to generate
No, because every bond issued by the central bank for us is identified by a unique number known as International Securities Identification Number, commonly known as ISIN.
Okay.
So it's just like our National Identity Card number. So every bond is identified because
it's called IC?
ISIN, AISIN. It's called ISIN.
ISIN.
ISIN. So what the computer should do is to follow the path through which the particular ISIN, the bond with the particular ISIN has been moved, change hands from one person to another, and what price, at what stage, what date. It's a matter of just pushing a button and getting.
Actually, to do a forensic audit of these bonds is not rocket science.
No, it's just pressing a button today.
And isn't it remarkable? Isn't it absolutely remarkable that it's taken 2 years and a bit more,
yeah, but
and nobody can press the button?
No, but of course after the bond commission was appointed, I have read in the newspapers for us the central bank has done the job. And it has actually produced the ISIN reports to the bond commission. One
of the drawbacks of journalists like me waiting for whistleblowers to come along is that when like in this case the central bank actually acts, it takes the wind out of the whistleblowers because there's no need to whistleblow.
Exactly. If the central bank is transparent and if it has the full disclosure policy and if it takes action according to the rules and laws within the country and the rules of the central bank, there's no need for whistleblowers, or there's no need even for a mediaman like you to point it out for us.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Well, it's been a terribly interesting evening. Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay Wardner. Good luck with your book, Central Banking, Challenges and Prospects, which will hit the bookstand soon. Thank you, and grateful thanks for your continuous work in the cause and in pursuit of good governance and accountability and responsibility.
You are welcome, Faraz. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that's about it from the Hot Seat. Take care. Good night.